win the series against the Royals. This was very close to being a very upsetting episode. I think the whole tenor going into this huge series in Boston wouldn't have been a whole lot of optimism, but the Yankees were able to kind of gut it out and win the series. And a sweep would have been great, but 2 out of 3 is fine. Losing 2 out of 3 would have been really bad, but they did what they had to. And the first 2 games were the toss-ups. I was actually at the first game, as was producer Casey, thanks to our good old buddy Dan, the Met fan, but he might be a closet Yankee fan. We're not too sure. But here nor there, was good going to the first game for me since the 2019 ALCS Game 5 against Houston. It was different, but it kind of felt like old times. And unfortunately, they got off on the wrong foot. And it was eventful, though. I felt like the first 2 games, there was a lot going on. Back and forth, late game drama. And then the Yankees took care of business well in that rubber match. So most of the discussion will be about the first 2 games, for sure. And just generally speaking, Gary Sanchez continues to just be really, really good. I'm very surprised. I'm pleasantly shocked. Seriously, he has just been, and it's the way he's hitting also. He's not striking out that much. He's hitting a lot of, big home runs. And as we'll talk about in this series, these are not just down 8-1 or, up 6-0. These are really important homers and hits, hitting to the opposite field. So all great on the Gary Sanchez front. Another positive, Luke Voit. Luke Voit returns from injury. And I had said, probably I guess it was about a month ago, maybe a little less, that this was shaping up to be a lost season for Luke Voit. But he made his presence felt, including a walk-off hit in this series. So that's going to be something to look for. And he adds, certainly a much more dangerous element than what would have been, like the Chris Gittins, Mike Fords, Jay Bruces of the world. I guess even Rougned Odor, who also had a good series, certainly as the series went on. And then on the negative side, Aroldis Chapman has been really bad lately, and that was a whole mess. So he blew another save, and he went from just being the best pitcher of baseball to just someone that you can't trust right now. And then also Gleyber Torres. It's been a really bad year for Gleyber. Concerning. I mean, he's very young still. There's a lot of talent there, but boy, has it been pretty brutal. So it looked at one point like maybe he was going to turn it around. It was around the time the Yankees were playing the White Sox, where he was getting some big hits, walk-off hit, and the defense has been better than it was, but he hits for no power. He doesn't hit the ball that hard. So it's bad batting average. It's horrible. This is a guy who had 38 home runs in 2019, and he has 6 home runs combined in the last 2 seasons. Unacceptable. But let's jump right into the series with that first game, which I attended, and it was Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole has not gotten run support, or the bullpen has blown it for him. So it's funny. Gerrit Cole, I think he has 8 wins, but the Yankees are 8-7 in Gerrit Cole starts. It needs to be better than that, and it's not his fault. I believe in 13 of his 15 starts, I believe he's given up 2 runs or less. So he's given the Yankees a chance and more every single game. It's almost, kind of like the Jacob deGrom treatment from basically most of his career, where just pitching excellent, but not really it's funny. Gerrit Cole has 8 wins, but it could be more than that. So the win-loss should be better. But in this one, Brady Singer was on the mound for Kansas City. And like I said, Luke Voit makes his return. What was interesting was that Gary Sanchez did not catch this game, which isn't a surprise because Cole's on the mound. So Higashioka's behind the plate. And what's going to be interesting is if Gary Sanchez continues to play at this clip, what's going to happen when the games get really important? But indication so far is that it'll be Higashioka catching Cole. And it works out just because Sanchez was able to catch the second and third games. Even though there was a day game after night game, Gary was still behind the plate, so no harm, no foul. Where however you sliced it, it was going to be Higgy for 1 and Gary for 2. So fine, let it be. Like if you can keep on working it that way, I have no problem with Cole being comfortable with Higashioka. So right away, Luke Voit in his return gets it going. First pitch, solo shot. No doubt about it, home run. So that makes it 1-0 Yanks right away. This was a game where the Yankees' troubles with runners in scoring position continue. It has been really, really bad. And it would be 0 for 10 with 13 men left on base. 0 for 10. Just completely unacceptable. This is a really frustrating game. In the first, Clint Frazier would grind out with the bases loaded and 2 outs. So, a failure with the chance to really, give the Yankees some cushion. But Higashioka hits a solo shot. So, silencing the Sanchez, Higashioka critics, it works out well. And Higgy, he's had a tendency for, running into a home run or two. Yankee catching has to be among the tops in terms of power, OPS. No doubt. You definitely get home runs from Sanchez and Higashioka. But Giancarlo Stanton, with first and second 2 out, would strike out. So another example. Third inning, Cole runs into a little bit of trouble. Michael A. Taylor singles and Nicky Lopez would also single and make it first and third. And then Whit Merrifield would get an RBI ground out. That makes it 2-1. Then in the fourth, Ryan O'Hearn hits a solo homer. So it's 2-2. All of a sudden, 2-2. And we move to the seventh. So Cole doing what he needs to do to keep the club in the game, but it would be a leadoff walk to Jorge Soler. Dyson would pinch run for Soler, and then Gutierrez strikes out looking. Dozier grounds out. Then Michael A. Taylor walks, but then Cole would strike out Nicky Lopez to end his night. 2-2 game, in line for the win, and actually, he actually would continue to be in line for that win as the Yankees would score in that bottom of the seventh. Jake Brentz comes in, and this was after in that bottom of the fourth. Was it the fourth? Yes, in the fourth, I should have mentioned that Giancarlo Stanton would ground out on the first pitch against the lefty reliever after Brady Singer had walked 3 straight guys, LeMahieu, Judge, and Voit. And the score was 2-2 at that point. And Stanton had a rough night as well, but there were other players that, believe me, had it much worse than Stanton. So in that bottom of the seventh, Luke Voit gets a 1-out triple. This was a controversial play as there was some fan interference going on, but it looked like maybe Voit was going to hit another homer. But top of the wall, ends up being a triple. It's the right call. It all ends up as it should have. And they pinch run Wade for Voit, which made sense at the time as well, but it ends up kind of backfiring later on. Wade scores easily on a wild pitch. That's how the Yankees score a lot of their runs. A ton. It's solo shots and wild pitches. Then Stanton walks, and then Gio gets hit by a pitch, which would prove costly as Gio was hurt. He would finish his at-bats in the game. He would actually get a bloop single to lead off the ninth, but then he'd be pinch run for, and he would not play the rest of the series. So something to look out for going into the Boston series. Gleyber Torres strikes out swinging. It would be one of his 4 strikeouts on the night, just completely unacceptable. And then Clint Frazier grounds out. Torres and Frazier in this game and for this season have been 2 of the biggest disappointments easily. And these things do kind of ebb and flow, but I think at this point, yeah, like especially with DJ kind of turning things around a bit, and some other players who expectations aren't really that high for. Expectations were kind of high in different regards for Torres and Frazier, and they just have not gotten the job done, plain and simple. Top of the 8th, Jonathan Loaisiga comes in, and I didn't necessarily agree with this, not for the fact that he hasn't been good. He's been fantastic. But he had thrown 36 pitches in the last game they played, and Zach Britton and Chad Green did not pitch Britton had not pitched in a while to that point, and Green was fully healthy and had just come off a really good outing. Green seems like he's turning a corner again. So, perplexing, but again, like I like when I see Loaisiga in the game, I'm confident, but it could easily be second guessed. But it doesn't work out. Merrifield gets a leadoff single. Carlos Santana doubles. So right away, second and third, no out. But he gets Salvador Perez to strike out looking. Unfortunately, Ryan O'Hearn would get an infield single. Tyler Wade couldn't make the play. It was a tough play. Does DJ LeMahieu make the play? Maybe. I'm not sure, but it works out for the Royals. And it's funny, O'Hearn actually would have a couple of really big infield singles now that I think about it in this series, as well as a couple of home runs. Where the Royals take the lead is Gerard Dyson hits a ground ball to Wade, and unfortunately he double clutches. He had to go home. He wasn't going to be able to pull off the double play. He had to go home, but he just took a little too long, and Carlos Santana beats it out. So the Royals take the lead 4-3, and, when they tied it up, Cole lost the win. It's a no decision for Garrett Cole. And then he gets Gutierrez to strike out. So 4-3, eighth inning, fine. But then Hunter Dozier gets a single that falls in front of Gardner. I thought when he was hit that Gardner had a chance to get it. He didn't. That makes it 5-3, and then Michael A. Taylor gets an RBI single, makes it 6-3. So that would prove to be too much because the Yankees came up just short. I mean, if it had been anything less than 6-3, they'd probably come back and tie this game up. So Lucas Licky comes in, gets the out to end that inning. And then in the bottom of the eighth, Royals bring Kyle Zimmer. Gary Sanchez pinch hits for Higashioka, grounds out. And then Brett Gardner walks. And then DJ LeMahieu, a really nice at-bat, gets a 2-run homer to right center field. Really nice at-bat for DJ. And it's 6-5 right then and there. Then they bring in Scott Barlow. And Aaron Judge just is short of a home run. He doubles to, about left center field. And off the bat, it looked like it had a shot. It falls just short. And so it's running around second, down by 1. Rougned Odor pinch hits for Wade. So that was Voigt's spot. Odor pinch hits for Wade, and Odor pops out on the first pitch. Just not great. Not great. And, and at the time, really upset with Rougned Odor, but he would redeem himself as the series went on. But a really bad job there. Then Giancarlo Stanton grounds out to end the inning. So it really was a not good night for Stanton. And as I was there, I wasn't really thinking about that so much. I was more focused on Odor, even though it was just one at bat, and specifically Torres and Frazier. But Stanton had a rough night as well, now that I look back at this. We go to the top of the ninth, and Licky would stay on and pitch a 1-2-3 inning. The good season for Lucas Licky continues. Really a bright spot. Bottom of the ninth, Greg Holland comes on, who's a veteran guy in this league. He's not that great anymore. He's someone that is hittable, and that would be proven out in this series. But Gio gets that, like I said earlier, that bloop single to start the inning. So you're feeling good about things. Gio would be pinch run for because he was hurt. And Duhar pinch runs for Gio. Torres has a full count, and he strikes out on ball 4. I just don't know what he was swinging at. He's done this all year long. When he swung at ball 4, it's happened since the beginning of the season. It's completely unacceptable. And people made a big deal about the fact, and I guess kind of fell victim to it at the time, like the Torres didn't hustle. This was not a hustle issue because the pitch was so bad that it went away. But because Enduro was on first, Torres is automatically out. That's the rule. Torres could not have reached first safely, but then Torres was arguing about that he foul tipped it. It didn't look like he did. He just flat out, you could argue that maybe he didn't go around. I think he did. The blame falls on Gleyber, not the ump. And to be honest with you, I was kind of happy that he didn't foul it off because I'd rather run around second 1 out than run around first full count Gleyber, who was probably just going to strike out on the next pitch. So just as well. Then Clint Frazier has a 3-1 count, and he swings at ball 4 on 3-2, swings at ball 4 and strikes out. So Clint he's had some big moments here and there, but, and he would have one in game 2, a nice hit, but it's just been bad. Then they intentionally walk Gary Sanchez. So that's where we're at these days. Gary Sanchez, deservedly so, intentionally walked for Brett Gardner, who is just absolutely maybe the last guy. If you need a hit, Brett Gardner is not getting you the hit. Can he draw you a walk? Yes. Can he give you a long at bat? Yes. But he ain't going to do shit beyond that. So Gardner pops out to third, which is one of the classic things that he does. He'll either pop out to third, ground out to second, fly out to center. There's a couple of things that he'll do, and he pops out to third. So ball game over. Yankees lose 6-5. That was a rough one. Being in attendance for that one, that was a tough one to swallow with Cole on the mound against Kansas City. Let's move straight to game two. Game two was kind of had a similar feel. This was another really close game. This would be Danny Duffy, who would only go 2 innings. And thank God for that. He's had a very good year. He and like Sal Perez are definitely 2 of the longest tenured Royals. Against Michael King, who King is one of those guys, really good if you need to eat innings when you're losing. Not so good when the game is kind of hanging in the balance or it's tied. That's what I've learned with him. Like, his first innings are not good. But, hey, the line ends up being all right. I'll take it. He ends up going 4 2/3, 2 runs. I can live with that. It was like the other stuff isn't great. Like 3 walks is not great. There was a hit by pitch. So, look, it's ugly with King. I don't love the guy, but, for this instance, it wasn't so bad. So this is one of those nights where, because they're facing the lefty, you see Judge in center, you see Andujar in left, Frazier in right. Because Urshela was injured, Odor would play, even though it was against the lefty. But it actually ends up working out. So top of the first, King runs into that early trouble as Ryan O'Hearn, as he did the night before, homers. This time a 2-run shot, and so it is 2-0 Royals. Let's see. In the second, Odor comes up in a big spot, bases loaded, 2 out, and strikes out swinging. So Odor at this point, not exactly loved by Yankee fans. Bottom of the fourth. So bottom of the fourth, they bring in the third pitcher at this point. It's Carlos Hernandez. And Sal Perez also leaves the game. So I believe it was a foul ball by LeMahieu straight back that just kind of rattled him. Perez, he would end up DHing the third game. So he seems okay, but Perez would leave the game. And Stanton gets leadoff walk. Then Voit strikes out swinging. It was a rough night for Voit until it wasn't. Later on, Voit was chasing a lot. Then Torres flies out. Miguel Andujar walks. First and second, 2 out, and a big 2-run double for Clint Frazier. So it was a rough series for Frazier, defensively and at the plate, but he does get this big 2-run double to tie the game up, 2-2. So in the fifth, King runs into some trouble. Jad Green would come on to get Ryan O'Hearn to fly out. So Green really ends up doing a really nice job in this game, actually. He pitches a 1-2-3-6. Then he pitches a 1-2-3-7. So, 8 up, 8 down for Green. He's been good lately. Great to see. So, bottom of the seventh, LeMahieu gets a 1-out walk. Sanchez gets a 2-out walk. Stanton walks. So, bases loaded, then Luke Voit strikes out swinging. My point in this is Luke Voit, has a mostly good night 1. Night 2 was actually not great for Voit, but he would be the hero eventually. Top of the 8th tied, Zach Britton would give up a leadoff home run to Carlos Santana. So Britton had not pitched in a while, and Britton doesn't normally give up home runs, but Carlos Santana, who is just still a very, Santana and Sal Perez they're getting older. I guess Santana even more so, but they're still very good and dangerous. So this Royal team, it's not good by any means, but there are definitely way worse teams than Kansas City, no doubt about that. This is a 33-39 club. Obviously not a great record by any means, but they're not a laughing stock either. Yes, Santana leadoff homer, and then there's a 2-out double by Soler, but then he would get Gutierrez to ground out. So it's a 1-run Royal lead. Then in the bottom of the 8th, Jake Brent's the lefty. Gleyber does work a leadoff walk, so that was important. Absolutely. So there was that. And then Andujar grabs a double play. Miguel Andujar, when there's runners on base, specifically runners in scoring position, the numbers are really bad. Really bad. And I think, just to look ahead, we're going to see Andujar, I think, over Frazier in Boston, at least initially. Because I don't think they feel comfortable rolling Judge in center and with the Andujar-Frazier versus lefty lineup, because I think with that spacious right field, they're going to sacrifice offense and probably go with Gardner in center, at least for one of the lefty games. So I think Andujar will get another crack at it, but it's been a little bit frustrating. It's been frustrating with Andujar at times as well. Anyway, Frazier would then walk. So Frazier has actually had some key walks along the way this year. because then Rougned Odor hits a huge 2-run homer off the lefty to give the Yankees a 4-3 lead. So I'll say this about Odor. He hasn't surprised me. He is what he is. He homers. He strikes out a good bit. Doesn't play great. Like he is what he is. He's kind of all over the place, but he has had the knack for some big hits, some big homers. I'll give him that. Absolutely. So Yanks take a 4-3 lead. And then it's a roll to Chapman time in the 9th. Chapman would get Hunter Dozier to strike out. Look, and keep in mind, Chapman's been a mess lately. He has not been good. Then Michael A. Taylor singles. He then gets Hanser Alberto, who pinch hit to strike out. So it's looking good. We're on our first 2 outs. Then Whit Merrifield kind of dunks a single into right field. First and third, and then that's when the mound visit happens. Boone and Chapman are discussing this, and Chapman wanted to go against Santana. Now, in terms of the decision, I kind of see both sides. Santana had just homered off Britton, and the guy on deck was a rookie, no-name catcher. So I understand wanting to do that, but what you're doing is you're loading the bases. And as I've said with Chapman, like that command is not always there. And we've seen in extra innings what can happen. Like with Chapman, the less guys on base, the better. It is a risk. So I understand both sides of it. But the problem is that it seems like Boone and Chapman came to an agreement that he was going to allow to face Santana. All of a sudden, Boone goes to the dugout and he puts up the 4. So really bad communication there. That's the problem with that. Horrible communication. What ends up happening is he walks Rivero, that catcher, with the bases loaded on 4 pitches. It wasn't even close. So Chapman's freaking out like you've never seen before. He's going ballistic, like on the field, mad at Boone. He should be mad at himself also. Like, he should be absolutely mad at himself. Like, get it together. Get it together. Like, yeah, it didn't go the way you wanted it to, but don't 4-pitch walk him. And then it's a little bit of unluckiness. It's, I think that's a word. Unlucky. So Ryan O'Hearn gets another infield single that gives the Royals a 5-4 lead. Then Dyson grounds out, but then Chapman goes to the dugout, like throws his gloves, screams like he's pissed. He's pissed at Boone, but Chapman doesn't get the job done as well. So they're down 5-4. They're staring at losing a series to the Royals at home. And Greg Holland comes in. Greg Holland, the night before, they should have scored against him. They didn't, but they would tonight. Aaron Judge strikes out. So at this stage, Aaron Judge is struggling a bit. At this stage, he did have that double in the first game, but Judge would really bounce back in game 3 in a major way. But at this point, Judge wasn't coming through. And it's the savior, the big hit of the series, Gary Sanchez, homers to tie it up in the 9th. The guy has been money. He has been absolute money. So it ties up at 5. Then Stanton singles. They pinch run Wade. Wade gets the second on a wild pitch. And Luke Voit thought he homered, but it would be another off the left field wall shot, just like the first game. And Wade, because it's Wade, honestly, it was actually a situation where I believe it was Dyson who fields it very cleanly. If that hadn't been Tyler Wade, it actually might have been a situation where the runner wouldn't have scored. But because they pinch ran with Tyler Wade, it's a walk-off hit for Voit. Yankees win a really big one. So they split those 2 games. And you know what? Fine. Yanks win 6-5. Heroics from Sanchez, heroics from Voit, bails out Chapman. Let's jump right into game 3. Let's run right through game 3. So in this one, an easy win, which is great. It would be I believe his first name is Brad. I think Brad Keller, who has a 6.39 ERA. Like, he's terrible. And the Yankees took advantage of it. He's horrible. Against Jameson Taillon, who pitched well. Again, Taillon at home has been very serviceable. He has been. He ends up going 6 1/3 innings, gives up 1 run. Take that every day of the week. So, and then Nestor Cortez. Nestor Cortez has been fantastic. Goes 2 2/3, 1 hit, no earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. It's not going to last. We've seen this show before from Nestor in 2019, but hey, going to enjoy it while it happens. So Nestor really providing some nice innings for the Yanks. So in this one, like I said, Sanchez catches day game after night game. No Gio again. And they go with Gleyber gets a day off. Gleyber needed a day off. He's been terrible. Hopefully this day off gets him recharged, re-energized, and it's going to be a big series for him in Boston. So they would go with Wade at short, and Frazier plays over Andujar in the left. So yeah. First inning, Aaron Judge, solo shot. So he had been cold, kind of, and gets his 16th homer of the year to right. And then Sanchez singles to right. Stanton singles to right. Good piece of hitting. I like it. Then Voit flies out, and then Rudin Odor gets a lucky hit. But when you make contact, good things happen. So it's an infield single for Odor. Yanks take a 2-0 lead. Then in the bottom of the second, it would be a one-out walk to Tyler Wade. You never want to do that. He then steals second. LeMahieu walks, and it's an RBI single for Aaron Judge. So that makes it 3-0. So Judge continuing his good play in this game. Then in the bottom of the third, Luke Voit, solo shot to right field. So second home run of the series for Voit, and that would make it 4-0. Then top of the fifth, Tyone would run into his biggest problem, and that would be Nicky Lopez singling to start the fifth, and then Rivero would double to left, and Frazier wouldn't get an error on this, but Frazier kind of misplayed this a bit, so it's an RBI double, 4-1, and then Merrifield walks. So tying run is up in Santana, and he flies out to pretty deep left. And then Sal Perez lines out to Odor. Like, this could have been a really bad inning, but the Yanks got lucky. Tyone gets lucky, and they escape with it at just 4-1. Then in the bottom of the fifth, leadoff single Stanton, Voit strikeout, Odor double. So second and third, then Frazier walks, and then Brett Gardner pops out to third. It's classic Brett Gardner, just not getting it done. And then Tyler Wade, unsurprisingly, strikes out looking. So it stays at 4-1, but Tyone pitches a good sixth. And then Anthony Swarzak, former Yankee, comes in the bottom of the sixth, and it would be a LeMahieu single, Judge double, and who was the guy that would kind of put the icing on the cake for this series? A 3-run shot for Gary Sanchez. 13th homer of the year, gives the Yanks a 7-1 lead, and from there, Cortez comes in the seventh with one out, gets the job done. He would do well for the rest of the game. In the bottom of the eighth, it would be a Judge walk, and then eventually there'd be a wild pitch, and Giancarlo Stanton would get an RBI single. Yanks win it easily, 8-1. It's one of those, Yankees play so many close games. So these reviews, it's like there's so many crazy, those first two games were nuts, but that last game, great job by Tyone. They do what they have to do, and now we head to Boston in a really important series against the Red Sox, who swept the Yankees at Yankee Stadium just a couple of weeks ago. Domingo Germán versus Martin Perez, Jordan Montgomery versus Nate Eovaldi, and then Eduardo Rodriguez versus Garrett Cole. The way I see this, again, we're hoping for 2 out of 3. That's the hope. Cole Rodriguez, you gotta win that one. I'm sorry. That's one that you absolutely have to win. No excuses with the way that Rodriguez has been performing this year. It's just been not good. So you're hoping to just split the first two. Germán versus Perez and Montgomery versus Eovaldi. Split those, win the Cole game, and it'd be another series win for the Yankees, and they really need it. This is an extremely important series against Boston. I'm excited to see what they do. The bats seem to be kind of coming alive, but they're not coming through in the clutch. But yeah, going to be awesome. First series at Boston, and it's late June. Let's see what happens.